Can an empire collapse because of a single bullet? One gunshot cracked the still air above a stone bridge, the Marco Polo Bridge, July 1937, and East Asia's history bent in its wake. It wasn't an accident. It was the ignition of a plan long written in Tokyo's shadowed offices. The expansion of the empire of the rising Sunday. A single gunshot, backed by factories, ideology, and the hunger to rule. While the world's eyes were fixed on Europe, Japan was dragging steel and dust across the Yangtze. Its tanks hauling through villages.
We move tonight.
Its soldiers fed by belief and conquest. Beijing fell. Shanghai burned. 250,000 Chinese soldiers were gone within months. Those who survived retreated to Chongqing, a trembling heart still learning how to resist amid smoke and rubble. But the most terrifying weapon was silence. As the League of Nations drafted condemnations, as diplomats wrote telegrams of concern, Nanjing, China's capital, became a psychological battlefield. Japan's goal wasn't just territory, it was submission of the spirit. A secret order, Operation 100 declared, paralyzed the Chinese soul within 100 days. In December 1937, Nanjing fell, and for the next 6 weeks, the city of culture and light descended into a valley of ashes. The numbers, cold yet merciless, whisper what words cannot. 300,000 sacrificed, 20,000 women assaulted, entire districts wiped from existence. Compare that to Pearl Harbor, 1,941. 2 hours of fire, or Normandy, 1,944. 8 days of carnage, and Nanjing becomes 6 weeks of silence that screamed. No nuclear bombs. No great armies in balance. Only civilians, trapped between empire and oblivion. The world called it a regional conflict. History knows it as the Asian rehearsal for World War II. Ambition met indifference, and indifference became complicity. Declassified Japanese documents later revealed that this was no spontaneous war. It traced back to 1931, when Japan seized Manchuria and built the puppet state of Manchukuo. The invasion of China was a test run of imperial mechanics. How much land can be taken? How much propaganda can disguise blood? And how long will the world look away? In the surviving black and white photos, we see roads dragging dust, soldiers hauling banners, and rivers glowing with dusk. A city muted, a world pretending not to hear, but history remembers. Nanjing was not merely a battlefield. It was a mirror reflecting the shadows inside humanity itself. If Stalingrad was steel versus steel, Nanjing was man versus conscience. From the ruins, the Chinese rose again, not driven by vengeance, but by memory. And that memory, faint like a light flickering through monochrome film, warns us still. When the world stays silent before evil, silence becomes the drumbeat of the next war. Can science be used to measure the limits of mercy? In the frozen plains of Manchuria, Japan tried to answer that question, and in doing so, buried its own conscience beneath the snow. After the fall of Nanjing, when the world believed the front lines had quieted, another kind of war began. One fought behind sealed doors and white coats. The Imperial Japanese Army built its most secret project in the quiet town of Pingfang, near Harbin, Unit 731. Officially, it was called the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. In truth, it was a laboratory of war, a place where science and cruelty shared the same desk. The mastermind was General Shiroishi, a doctor who believed that war favors those who understand disease. He promised Tokyo a weapon that could win without gunfire. and under his direction, more than 3,000 prisoners, Chinese, Koreans, Russians, disappeared into the silence of experiments. The project's scale rivaled the darkest operations of the 20th century. While Germany had its concentration camps, Japan had its laboratories. While Europe tested ideology, Asia became the proving ground for biological war. In both, the human body was reduced to a number, and conscience became a variable. Declassified post-war archives reveal how deep the program reached. Unit 731 developed plague bombs, tested frostbite resistance, and studied the limits of human endurance. Entire villages in Zhejiang and Ningbo were exposed to infected fleas, and history recorded the toll. Over 100,000 civilians perished from epidemics that began with a single test. Japan's scientists called it data. The world would later call it a crime without a name. But the most disturbing chapter came after the war ended. In 1946, when Tokyo was in ruins and its generals stood trial, the Americans made a decision hidden deep in classified files. Ishii and his team would not face the tribunal. In exchange for their research, they were granted immunity, the same logic that drove Operation Paperclip in Europe, where Nazi scientists were spared for their rocket expertise. And so, the legacy of Unit 731 was not erased, it was absorbed. The data collected in the cold rooms of Harbin found its way into medical libraries and military archives. For decades, the victims had no graves, only footnotes. Compare this to the Allied outcry after Auschwitz or Hiroshima. There were museums, trials, remembrance. But in the East, silence lingered longer than smoke. No trials, no memorials, only rumors whispered across generations. It wasn't until the 1,990 seconds that survivors spoke publicly, and the world began to uncover the truth hidden under decades of diplomatic frost. Even now, the ruins of Pingfang stand as a monument of contradiction. Modern science, born from ancient cruelty. Metal doors rust in the wind. Broken instruments lie like bones. And the snow carries the same chill as it did 80 years ago. History tells us that science is a tool, but Unit 731 proved it can also be a mirror. It reflected what happens when knowledge is dragged from curiosity to conquest, when research becomes religion and progress forgets compassion. In the black and white reel of history, the frames of Pingfang flicker beside those of Hiroshima and Chernobyl, all warnings carved in different languages, but sharing one sentence. When humanity experiments on itself, it learns everything except forgiveness. History ends not with silence, but with a whisper that echoes through the ruins. By 1945, Japan's empire, once fed by belief and ambition, was dragging its last breath through the ashes of Asia. Cities collapsed under firebombs. The Pacific burned red, and generals who once marched with certainty now read surrender in the smoke. But even as Tokyo crumbled, the empire's final act was not surrender, it was concealment. They called it Operation Golden Lily. It was a mission wrapped in myth, but born from truth, the systematic plunder of Asia's wealth. From the mines of Manchuria to the temples of Burma, Japanese officers looted gold, diamonds, and sacred artifacts under the banner of restoration. But restoration for whom? For a sun that refused to set. The empire's dream was dying, yet its greed refused to follow. Across the Philippines, convoys dragged crates marked with imperial seals, coins, bullion, and relics from conquered lands. General Tomoyuki Yamashita, the Tiger of Malaya, oversaw the operation, ensuring that billions in treasure vanished into tunnels, caves, and burial chambers. Estimates vary, but historians calculate up to 100 tons of gold disappeared beneath the soil of Southeast Asia. Some say it was worth $200 billion in today's value. Others say it was never about money. It was about the illusion that an empire could live forever underground. When compared to Nazi Germany's stolen art or the Soviet race for uranium, Japan's treasure hunt was its own shadow war, silent, secret, and symbolic. While Berlin fought for ideology and Washington fought for survival, Tokyo fought for memory. To the last moment, the empire sought immortality through possession, believing that gold could preserve the ashes of its glory. Then came the flash. Hiroshima, August 6th, Nagasaki, August 9th. Two lights that turned night into judgment. In 9 days, two cities became testaments to power and consequence. Yet, even as the world stared at the mushroom clouds, another kind of explosion was unfolding, one that left no crater, only questions. On September 2nd, 1945, Japan signed its surrender aboard the USS Missouri. Cameras rolled, pens scratched paper, and the empire was declared dead. But history has a strange way of breathing through its graves. U.S. intelligence, already aware of Golden Lily, began searching for the treasure immediately. According to post-war reports and testimonies from the 1,950 seconds, certain caches were found and deals were struck. Some claim Washington secretly seized part of the gold to fund anti-communist operations during the Cold War. Others dismiss it as conspiracy. The truth, as always, lies buried somewhere between greed and strategy. When compared to the Marshall Plan rebuilding Europe, the aftermath of Asia was quieter, colder. China had lost over 20 million people. Japan lost 2 million soldiers. But numbers don't breathe, people do. And the silence that followed was heavier than any weapon. For the Japanese people, defeat was not only military but moral. Children walked through ruins where schools once stood. Farmers tilled land laced with shrapnel. Women waited for husbands who would never return. The empire of the sun had set, yet dawn did not come. It was a twilight that lasted years. Still, in that twilight, light began to gather, faint, human, defiant. While generals vanished, the survivors began to rebuild with bare hands, with hunger, with humility. Factories rose from rubble, and within 2 decades, Japan transformed from ashes to industry. The miracle was not economic. It was spiritual proof that repentance could grow where arrogance had ruled. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, myths of Yamashita's gold continued to haunt treasure hunters. Men with metal detectors searched mountains and jungles, chasing the ghost of an empire. Each claimed a discovery here. A map there added another layer to the legend. Was the gold real? Possibly. Was it worth the cost? Never. The real treasure was buried elsewhere in the lessons the world tried not to forget. That power without morality breeds ruin. That science without conscience becomes a weapon. That empires built on silence always end in echoes. If Part 1 showed us war's birth, and Part 2 its descent into madness, Part 3 is its reckoning. A final confrontation between ambition and truth. The empire's twilight was not punishment from above, but consequence from within. And so, in the black and white reels of 1945, we see 2 kinds of light. The blinding light of Hiroshima and the quiet one in the eyes of survivors planting seeds in broken soil. Both illuminate the same question. The question history still whispers: Can a nation truly rise again if it refuses to face what buried it? The war ended, but its echoes never did. Operation Golden Lily remains half history, half legend. The gold may still sleep beneath the jungles of Luzon, or it may have melted into the bloodstream of the modern world. But what truly glitters beneath all this dust is not treasure. It is the warning left behind. Empires fall not when they are defeated, but when they forget why they began to fight. And that is how Japan's war, born from faith in the rising sun, ended not with victory or vengeance, but with reflection. A lesson written in ash, sealed in gold, and whispered through time, reminding us that every light, no matter how bright, casts its own shadow. A lesson written in ash, sealed gold, and whispered through time, reminding us that every light, no matter how bright, casts its own shadow.